right then, Harry Houdini, what is your master plan then?
You will stare at dead rats, Gwen, until Rolf, who is a brilliant scientist, whom we are very lucky is working for us, complete the job! And honestly, I have far more pressing matters to attend to than assuaging your rest. My two brothers are missing, and as of right now, no one has a damn clue where they are!
What do you know about this? Huh?
I don't know who's holed up in EJ's basement, okay? I don't.
In today's gripping Days of Our Lives, Inspired Breakdown, we dive into an explosive episode filled with kidnappings, betrayals, human bones, DiMera rivalries, and tangled investigations. Leo starts piecing together EJ and Gwen's secret partnership. The trapped DiMeras dig up human remains. Susan spies Rolf creeping out of the tunnels, and Rafe threatens to yank Kat off the case. Meanwhile, spoilers tease the identity of the bones, Kristen's next chaotic moves, Peter Blake's return, and the future of Gabi and Stefan's love story. Let's unravel the madness. When Leo begins to piece everything together, the trapped DiMeras find that a human remains. Rafe confronts Kat, Theo unearths a human bone, and Leo discovers Gwen and EJ are partners on today's episode of Days of Our Lives. While the other crypt keepers argue over whether EJ is responsible for all of this, Tony is sleeping. Chad and Theo determine that the only way out is up, which results in a dropped Kristen rolling around on the ground with a sprained ankle. Theo is really annoyed when she curses them out, and then moves on to Rachel, which starts the argument all over again. He seems to be the only one who considers utilizing the readily detachable candle holders to dig instead of bare hands, which helps them get back on track to escape. Does Susan have a clue? Just as EJ and Kat are about to kiss, Susan enters, frightened. Kat knows what he was thinking, but EJ doesn't. He was under the influence of drugs. When he informs Susan that he wasn't feeling well and that his family is missing, she leaves. But he's all right. But Susan is more concerned that EJ is responsible. Susan informs him that Kat might have, despite his insistence that he didn't. Pish-posh. There's something off about that girl. EJ dismisses Susan's concerns. Susan watches as Dr. Rolf slips out of the tunnels after he receives a summons that quickly draws him away. Whoops! He sneaks back into the tunnels after grabbing some water and dodging her questioning about his whereabouts. Is Rafe going to remove Kat from the case? Javi enters and hears Rafe mention Trey, while he is on the phone with Jada to arrange security for the other DiMeras. Rafe tells his cousin about the mystery and reassures him that Trey is not in any immediate danger. Then, surprise! A cat stops by. Lovely, innocent Javi buys her justification of delivering a gift card for looking after Trey before heading out to get Leo. Rafe is not pleased with Kat's hasty entry into the EJ drug business. She claims that she found a cot in the wine room and that her plan was flawless, with shoes for men. Who is hiding there? Does Leo know what EJ is doing? While Leo is trying to concoct a tale about Chad going missing in the pub, Gwen approaches him from behind. Leo proposes that they work together to find Chad because she is surprisingly concerned, but Gwen believes this is a terrible idea. However, she hesitates when Leo says that EJ is most likely responsible, recalling how they made Dimitri disappear. She yells, but EJ didn't do it, and leaves. The guys immediately start worrying about Trey once Javi stops by and informs Leo about Theo. Leo concludes that it's time to corner EJ after watching the gala tape of EJ and Gwen fighting. He comes to the conclusion that they might be co-conspirators. In the last scenes of the show, Gwen almost pushes EJ inside the lab and asks if he is responsible for the kidnappings. Better that he doesn't ruin this for her. She outlines their strategy, which involves combining Versavix and Rolf's serum and testing the mixture on the person in the pod in order to produce a resurrection elixir that will make them extremely wealthy. EJ snaps when she demands to know why it's taking so long. His lid. However, Rolf's quick arrival to alert them about Susan saves her. Susan questions Stefano's portrait about all of this when she returns to the estate. Rafe acknowledges that Kat obtained useful information, but it doesn't resolve the issue and she still went too far. She might have put everything in danger. If she swears she won't do this again, he won't tell Shane about it. The DiMeras start working, and just as Kristen is complaining about the excavation, Theo makes a significant contribution. Something disgusting. A human skeleton. There's no denying that Days of Our Lives must be saying a startlingly final goodbye. The whole gang is here. Hey, Days of Our Lives DiMera crypt is filling up with guests since Theo joined, and we know that at least one more guest is on the way this week. Additionally, on Tuesday's show, Theo discovered several human bones. It appears that the human remains that were hinted at in the major season teaser have finally been located. They are typically found in alcoves or containers rather than beneath the tomb's floor. However, it is what you would anticipate finding in a crypt. Unless, of course, the DiMera Undertaker has been indolent. We do believe that the DiMeras have their own Undertaker. Which bones belong to whom? Since nobody appears to be leaving the crypt anytime soon, we'll probably have to wait a while to find out. However, we do have one hypothesis that appears to be quite reliable. Stefano owns them. After all, Stefano has been dead for years. Yes, that microchip gibberish was his essence, but it was essentially a duplicate. Indeed, Rolf is skilled at bringing DiMeras back to life and keeping him alive for years, but as Rafe noted over the summer, he'd be older than Methuselah if Stefano were still living. Yes, we are aware that he is dead, but because his body was never located, his threat has persisted for years. No one ever buried him. Unless, of course, the purpose of this is to discover that he was. It would finally put an end to the mystery of the Phoenix and the tale of Stefano, but it wouldn't reveal who put him there just yet. And that might directly lead to the next stage of this narrative. If that's the case, then the Phoenix ring we saw in the winter commercial represents the emergence of Stefano's actual heir rather than his return. Stefano is by no means the only one who has worn it. In the absence of his father, Andre has worn it. Chad, who was probably not who he was becoming into, gave it to Kate for a while before giving it up. And after he was all chipped up, Stefano had it. Anyone can don it and claim to be the Phoenix, but Stefano is the only one who has ever done it consistently. Finding Stefano's real successor, and a villain deserving of the title, could be where this whole thing is headed. It's unclear who that is, but it's probably whoever is genuinely responsible for these kidnappings. Because it's a DiMera according to money. The only thing left to do is choose one. Tate confesses to Holly after Sophia tricks Rachel and puts Chanel in a panic. Days of Our Lives spoilers for Wednesday, December 10th indicate that Chanel Dupree DiMera is in a panic and Sophia Choi will deceive Rachel Black. Here's what Days viewers may expect from Tate Black's confession to Holly Jonas. Stephanie Johnson will have a surprise when she gets home from her trip to Chicago. The couple will spend some holiday time together, since Alex Kyriakis will get everything ready for some Christmas decorating. In addition, Brady Black and Sarah Horton will spend more time together on Wednesday's DOL episode. According to Days teasers, Sarah and Brady will rely on one another for support because they are both now coping with a lot of problems. Rachel's transition to Bayview will undoubtedly continue to be Brady's top worry, but because of her new connection with Sophia, Rachel is actually beginning to fit in wonderfully. Regretfully, Sophia is only using Rachel as a tool to further her own goals. Look for Sophia to deceive Rachel on Wednesday's show and become even more of a negative influence because that agenda will take some unexpected turns. According to spoilers for other days, Tate will have to confess. Holly Jonas will receive updates on Tate's situation, and it appears that he will acknowledge that he faces the possibility of failing out of Salem University. Chanel will find it difficult to control her anxiety with the escalating DiMera threat, while Holly responds to Tate's challenging circumstances. Given that the DiMeras are always going missing, it makes sense that Chanel would be concerned about Trey and Johnny DiMera as well. Paulina Price will, however, make every effort to allay Chanel's worries and put an end to all the warning signs. EJ DiMera might step in and provide Chanel and Johnny with some protection, but there isn't enough manpower for them to receive an official protected detail from the police. According to spoilers on Days of Our Lives, that can make things more difficult for Chanel and Johnny. Kristen and EJ reeling, the startling identity of Crypt Bones, revealed. Kristen DiMera, EJ DiMera, and the rest of the family are left in disbelief after a major shocker on Days of Our Lives. It's the identification of the bones discovered buried beneath the floor in the family crypt. It will be a complete surprise. Tony DiMera, Kristen, Chad DiMera, and Theo Carver were thrown in this week. Soon, EJ will join them. This indicates that the family get-together is about finished. However, the bones they discovered will accompany them when they are rescued. They are also recognized. That result is going to be astounding. Let's talk about who is dead and buried, under the floor, not in a mausoleum crypt. Days of Our Lives, a desperate DiMera family trapped in the crypt. Tony, Kristen, and Chad, the crypt crew, talked about how there was no way out of the family mausoleum. They were all ready to monitor the door and go, but when Theo was drugged and thrown in, they lost their opportunity. He doesn't know how he got there or who abducted him. Abe Carver's son was abducted by the criminal in plain daylight. EJ will soon be joining them. Together, they might be able to figure out a way to break out of the eerie tomb. Alternatively, it's more likely that Jada Hunter and Rafe Hernandez will free the prisoners. Susan Banks, a clairvoyant, can also provide them with a hint about where to look. The DiMera heirs, meantime, are perplexed by the human bones they discover. After Tony bandaged Kristen's injured hand with his shirt, she gave up trying to dig her way to freedom. However, the digging will resume since Chad and Theo are joining the group, and their desperation is increasing. Revealing the kidnapper, is Peter Blake responsible for the DOOL abduction of DiMera? In addition to wanting to get away, Kristen, Chad, Tony, and Theo also want to know who took them and why. Weeks ago, our leaker informed us that it was Peter Blake, even until the winter promo revealed his comeback. That is, well done, leaker. That brings me joy, because it confirms to me once more how trustworthy they are. Tony stated that he initially believed Theo was responsible for their abductions, but after giving it some more thinking, he concluded that wasn't really his nephew's style. While their brother EJ is planning a coup to seize DiMera Enterprises, Kristen fears that he may have them all present. However, Chad refused and stood up for EJ. Chad stated that since EJ is Chad's attorney in the custody dispute for Thomas and Charlotte DiMera, there is no way that he would abduct them. Chad is aware that EJ is capable of playing dirty, but he also understands that when his children are involved, he wouldn't do the same. Also, when EJ joins them in the mausoleum this week, all misgivings about him will vanish. Rafe and Jada are investigating, while Salem police are on high alert. The good news is that when Theo failed to show up for their date, Jada became quite suspicious, especially because she knew he had just been talking to Gabi Hernandez at the bar. He went outside to answer a call from his father, Abe, who then informed him that he was on the line when the call suddenly ended. Rafe Hernandez, an FBI agent, is now investigating the matter. He is investigating the disappearance of Chad. They are currently working on another case, which is Theo. The Salem Police Department is on high alert to locate Theo and Chad thanks to top cop Jada. Additionally, they want to know where Tony is. They believe that Kristen is on the run after fleeing Statesville, so they aren't actually searching for her. Instead, they are focused on finding Chad and Theo, and maybe Tony as well. Days of Our Lives, the startling finding. Whose bones are beneath the floor? the crypt crew isn't going to wait for a rescue, in my opinion, and they might soon start excavating again. This indicates that they find a set of bones in one of the crypt slots that are not properly laid to rest. These bones are concealed, much like you would with a covert murder victim. When they discover them, Theo remarks, "These are human bones, but whose physical remains are they?" The key question is that these bones are unquestionably not in one of the listed graves, despite the fact that we notice many DiMera names on all the crypt spaces in the mausoleum. Additionally, the winter promo informs us that Rafe brings the bones to the FBI lab and receives a positive ID. She returns to the DiMera estate to share the story with the family on Days of Our Lives. When Rafe breaks the news, Kristen and EJ are present. In the same moment, Kristen is shown crying and discussing how the DiMeras are surrounded by too many deaths. I must, however, provide a small warning. The scene where Kristen is crying might actually be her crying over something else, and it is deftly blended into the scene where Rafe claims that they have an ID on the bones. The part where Kristen is crying is, in my opinion, from the reveal. However, if it was a smart edit, it was done to give the impression that the deceased was someone Kristen cared about. On Days, could the remains be Stefano DiMeras? As previously said, Peter is the kidnapper, according to our leaker. We must thus question if Peter placed the bones in the mausoleum so that his prisoners may discover them. It might be a warning sign or a scare tactic for the DiMera heirs. Peter and the bones don't seem to be connected, in my opinion. I would like to know if those bones are those of their late father, Stefano DiMera. He died many years ago, and his body was never discovered. I wonder if the Phoenix's body was discreetly interred in the DiMera mausoleum's floor. That would account for Kristen's intense response. She had a close relationship with her adopted father, Stefano. Additionally, the news that Stefano ended up in an unmarked grave would be extremely distressing to Tony, Kristen, EJ, and Chad. However, it's possible that the Phoenix requested it. Perhaps after gathering DNA for the Stefano 2.0 project, he instructed Dr. Wilhelm Rolf to conceal his bones there. Perhaps it's to ensure that Stefano's legend as the Phoenix would endure eternally, and his body would never be discovered. A last turn of events. Are the bones Abigail Devereaux's dead? It's also possible that Abigail Devereaux owns those bones. Kristen would naturally feel very sorry for Chad and his children. If you recall, back when Cat Green was posing as beloved Abby, Jack Devereaux and Chad dug up Abby's tomb, and they were taken aback because there was nothing in the grave. Clyde Weston is the only one who knows, but Chad has been desperate to locate Abby's bones, so he may bury her. However, Clyde has been in a coma ever since being shot by Kat's mother, Katharina Melionis. They might be the remains of Abby, because as part of his cunning scheme, Clyde chose to conceal them directly in front of Chad. Perhaps he felt that placing them there would be ironic. Within the following few weeks, we will learn who it is. Additionally, we are aware that the bones in the large test tube do not belong to the unidentified individual, since Dr. Rolf's futuristic life support system has put them in a state of stasis until he can revive them. Please share your thoughts about the mystery of the bones below. Kristen's 4 crazy steps, rescue offers fresh plans, power trip, and more. According to spoilers for Days of Our Lives, Kristen DiMera has 4 crazy moves in store for her. Let's discuss what will happen to Kristen and the other prisoners once they are released, as her rescue will involve new plots, a power trip, and other things. Kristen's frantic request to Peter. To begin with, Days recently published a sneak peek video in which Kristen begs for what seems to be her brother's forgiveness. It appears that Kristen will find herself at the hospital bedside of an irate Peter Blake, making a heartfelt plea. Although Kristen's potential betrayal has not yet been revealed, Peter will undoubtedly harbor resentment for a while. In the upcoming weeks, Kristen will need to make some concessions if she hopes to mend her relationship with Peter. Kristen advocates for Rachel's release from Bayview. Kristen will also be exonerated of shooting EJ DiMera, but this won't be good news because she will find out that Rachel Black has entire recollection. Kristen will receive updates on the horrific situation since Rachel arrived at Bayview after Brady Black discovered that she attempted to hurt Sarah Horton and shot EJ. Marlena Evans will advocate for Rachel to remain incarcerated for a longer period of time, even though Kristen will ultimately demand her daughter's release and urge Rachel to return home as soon as possible. Sadly, that would give Sophia Choi more time to coerce Rachel into following her instructions. So this time at Bayview might be more detrimental than beneficial. Kristen plans a reunion with Brady. Kristen should eventually calm down, even if she might be upset with Brady at first for letting Rachel land in Bayview. In the end, Kristen could feel some pity for Brady because he's been doing his hardest under awful circumstances. Naturally, Brady would feel the same way about Kristen, who gave up a lot by accepting responsibility for EJ's shooting and arriving at Statesville. Brady might comprehend Kristen's wish to keep their young daughter safe. Even though he objects to all the secrets, Kristen might plan for their reunion because this might give her some optimism that she and Brady will still be together in the future. Plotting against Brady and Sarah's romance, which is about to intensify on DOOL, would inevitably be part of it. In any case, according to today's teasers, Kristen and Gwen von Leusner will raise a glass to achieving their goals. Thus, Brady might be on Kristen's list as usual. Kristen plans to take over as CEO of DiMera. Kristen is likely to plan a DiMera CEO takeover as well. Kristen may attempt to secure Theo Carver's top rank once she is free of criminal charges. Day's spoilers suggest that Kristen may take advantage of Theo's impending hospital issue. Kristen may propose herself as interim CEO and attempt to make the role permanent if Theo ends up in a coma or at the very least needs some time to recover. According to teasers on Days of Our Lives, Kristen might do all four of these crazy things. Before Dick Van Dyke's 100th birthday celebration, Susan Seaforth Hayes of Days reveals the unexpected turn of the musical rehearsal. Even hectic days can have unexpectedly lovely moments, as demonstrated by Susan Seaforth Hayes' behind-the-scenes story. Julie might soon have to mediate disputes within the family on Days of Our Lives. Because of his relationship with Kat, Jennifer has been spearheading the effort to remove Chad's children from him. Julie may be the one to help everyone resolve the problem because she seems to have a slightly different perspective. Susan Seaforth Hayes, meantime, has been thinking back on a completely different kind of confrontation. The day she, Dick Van Dyke, and the late Bill Hayes attempted to perform a musical number that nearly went apart before they ever hit the mark. The practice that almost failed. Working with Dick Van Dyke was a big event, according to Susan Seaforth Hayes, who told Michael Fairman TV that the icon joined Days because he had always wanted to attempt a soap opera. We were informed that you would have the opportunity to perform scenes with Dick Van Dyke and dance. She recalled, chuckling. The twist came next. We were informed that practicing beforehand was not feasible. His visit to our home was not covered by our insurance. She ultimately hired a choreographer with the help of her late husband, Bill Hayes, while the choreographer, who was sidelined due to an ankle injury, guided them through movements he was unable to show. Bill, who was then in a wheelchair, worked through the staging in their living room. They decided on T for Two, created the routine themselves, and hoped that muscle memory wouldn't fail them when the cameras rolled because the song had to be in the public domain. Things became much more bizarre on the day of filming. Not a pianist, no appropriate accompaniment. Bill muttered reminders under his breath while a lone guitarist played at an inappropriate tempo. Despite the chaos, one take, one pickup, it managed to work despite Van Dyke's faulty screenplay and his difficulties with the lines. Susan found herself comforting him by saying, "There are days that are more difficult than other days. Do not take it personally." In the end, it looked pretty good, she remarked. A moment of legacy prior to a significant birthday. The number turned into one of those strange, endearing career tales for Hayes that will last beyond the actual video. She added that Van Dyke made it work by improvising moves that suited his messy, human, and unforgettable personality, even though they didn't match anything they had practiced. She mentioned that she still has a lengthy list of people she would love to collaborate with as she thought back on the milestone. However, nothing compares to the excitement of the day Van Dyke entered the day's set. She still treasures the memory of it, even though it wasn't tidy or polished. And now, as the world gets ready to commemorate his 100th birthday, Hayes' behind-the-scenes tale seems like the ideal homage, a time when turmoil prevailed, legends clashed, and yet something lovely managed to make it through. Does Kristen collaborate with Peter? How does DiMera compare to Die Hard? When Kristen mentioned the name of her deceased brother, Peter, on the December 9th episode of Days of Our Lives, her other brother, Chad, and nephew Theo noted that Peter is usually forgotten. Undoubtedly, Kristen hasn't. We must also consider whether the two adoptive siblings are cooperating now that we know he is returning to Salem. Me and you against the world. Stefano is equally devoted to each of his children. He did not distinguish between Peter, Kristen, and his long list of biological children. As a matter of fact, he is far more like Kristen and Peter than he is like Chad and Theo's mother, Lexi. However, despite Stefano's lavish attention, Kristen and Peter always felt a little inferior. Peter's desire to get rid of all the biological heirs makes sense. And why would Kristen conspire with him? Buried alive, however, isn't Kristen just as confined as the others? That's her statement. She even sobbed about an injury that would prevent her from assisting Chad in climbing up and out, but otherwise, she seemed to be opposed to any thought of leaving. Of all, she wouldn't be the first criminal to pose as a victim. Do you recall Hans Gruber from Die Hard? Reunited. It makes reasonable that Peter would place Kristen among his victims in order for her to ascertain their thoughts and relay those insights to her younger brother. On the inside, Kristen is Peter's woman. On the outside, Peter is Kristen's man. They'll take over the whole family when they band together and demonstrate that they are, in fact, the greatest DiMeras. Are you missing Stefan DiMera? The reasons Gabi must see her true love. Advocate for Stefan DiMera's return to the program. Gabi Hernandez continues to have the belief that Stefan left her voluntarily after she had an affair with his brother, EJ DiMera. Spoilers for Days of Our Lives. Stefan was going to end the divorce. Fans of DOOL are aware that Stefan was on the verge of ending the divorce when he was abducted and sent to Alemania by Vivian Alamian's goon, Ivan Murray. A few months prior, EJ had said that Stefan had given him a get-well-soon card following his shooting. The likelihood of Stefan wishing EJ well is comparable to Stefano DiMera's resurrection as a priest. Particularly after EJ had sex with Gabi, Stefan and EJ were never close. Since then, Stefan hasn't been discussed much. Gabi hasn't exactly had spectacular love stories in her recent partnerships. We were utterly bored with Gabi and JJ Devereaux. She is currently seeing Philip Kyriakis. Even if Gabi and Philip had their moments, we still feel that they are not a good fit. Additionally, it will be revealed that Gabi bugged Xander Kyriakis' office in order to obtain information that Tony DiMera might use against Titan. It's unlikely that Philip will be overjoyed to learn that Gabi deceived him and his brother. We have to wonder if Philip will tell Xander what Gabi did if he finds out. However, if Gabi somehow found out that Stefan had been abducted by Vivian before he could sign the divorce papers, that would be a nice twist to the plot. Actually, Stefan's signature was forged on them by Vivian. She even went so far as to pose as Stefan and send Gabi a letter addressed to Dear John. Stefan stated in the letter that he was unable to forgive Gabi for having an affair with his brother. he declared their marriage to be permanently dissolved. Spoilers for Days of Our Lives. Stefan and Gabi will die. Before Stefan abruptly vanished, Gabi was unaware that he was about to confess his love to his estranged wife. The explosive chemistry that Stefan and Gabi shared is what's really lacking between Gabi and Philip. But after being burned twice by DOOL, we're not sure if Brandon Barish would be open to returning to the serial opera. He might need to be recast for the program, but it's impossible to anticipate if Stabby would get along with a different Stefan. However, Cheir Jimenez replaced Camilla Banis as Gabi, and there was no denying the spark and passion between her and Barish. Furthermore, it would be a mistake to leave Stefan out of the discussion given everything that is now happening with the DiMera family. Without him, the DiMera family is incomplete. It's also absurd that Gabi continues to live under the false impression that Stefan no longer loves her and was keen to legalize their split. Vivian's secret, that she took Stefan to keep him away from Gabi, needs to be revealed. Since Gabi is still hiding the fact that she attempted to blow up Xander and Philip's business in order to get the top place at DiMera, it would be incredibly soap operatic if Stefan came back now. Stefan and Gabi are undoubtedly endgame. Brandon Barish's presence is greatly missed. Thus, it's unfortunate that the program let him go. Do you think Stefan DiMera should return to Salem? Days of Our Lives. Susan catches EJ and Kat in a precarious situation, while Javi overhears Rafe. As secrets, tension, and unexpected turns rock Salem, Susan notices EJ and Kat in a compromising moment, while Javi overhears Rafe. Theo and Jada's date night was cut short on the previous episode of Days of Our Lives. However, Gabi and Philip became worried. Then Kat asked EJ a question. Abe was consoled by Paulina after Theo vanished. Finally, Tony, Kristen, and Chad discussed their alternatives for getting out. In the upcoming weeks, the tension, the friction, the plotting, the risk, the drama, the secrets, and the concern are all going to blow up. When viewers log into Peacock to stream the popular daytime drama set in Salem, Illinois on December 9th, 2025, they can anticipate the following episode of Days of Our Lives. Spoilers for Days of Our Lives, December 9th, 2025. Javi overhears Rafe in the Tuesday episode. What precisely has he disclosed? And how will this alter the situation? Will Javi ask any questions? Will Rafe try to skirt the issue or provide him with some answers? Susan then discovers EJ and Kat in a precarious situation. What will it result in? Recently, Kat and EJ have been spending a lot of time together, which has caused some conflict between them. However, the reality is still that Kat is using this as a front to expose him. After giving him drugs to search his house, it appears like they are moving forward by sharing a passionate kiss. It appears like Susan, EJ's mother, interrupts them at that point. What will she think when she witnesses them sharing a kiss? Especially considering how well-known Kat's past romance with EJ's brother Chad is. Is this just another ruse by Kat to obtain information and discredit EJ? However, Gwen turns down Leo's proposal. What might this be about? Is this related to the impending nuptials of Leo and Javi? Will the ex-friends' disagreements about Dimitri's situation persist? Is she rejecting him because of the wedding or anything else? Finally, a startling discovery is made by the DiMera hostages. Now, for DiMeras are held captive in the crypt. Kristen, Chad, and now Theo have joined the chain that Tony established. They have no idea who is abducting them and abandoning them here. The team is looking for a way out. Will they be able to get away, though, especially after a startling discovery? Will they come together to figure out how to get out of this predicament? Or will they receive more significant answers before they can devise a plan to escape the crypt? Is EJ responsible for these kidnappings? To find out the specifics, stay tuned. Stephanie is in for a surprise from Alex. December 9th spoilers for Days of Our Lives. Susan discovers EJ and Kat in a precarious situation, among many other things. According to Wednesday, December 10th spoilers for Days of Our Lives, Alex shocks Stephanie, among other things. Continue reading for Soap Opera News comprehensive analysis of the next events. Stephanie is surprised by Alex. Stephanie was on her book tour in Chicago when we last saw her. Has the tour, however, already concluded? Spoilers indicate that her boyfriend Alex chooses to surprise her. What might he be planning? Is he on his way to Chicago to make her grin a lot? This pair would benefit greatly from a small surprise given everything they've been through recently. Paulina gives Chanel comfort. Paulina intervenes to comfort a very anxious Chanel in the meanwhile. What is causing Chanel such anxiety? Everyone in town, especially those with familial ties, has good reason to be on edge due to the expanding list of missing DiMeras. Because Johnny is a DiMera by blood, Chanel and little Trey are inextricably linked to the family drama, whether they like it or not. Chanel's anxiety is understandable. Tate tells Holly the truth. Tate is at last prepared to tell Holly about his predicament. Oh my goodness, this might get messy. Will he soon reveal the truth regarding his film project grade? Tate didn't pass with honors, but she did, and he told her a falsehood. The question now is if being honest will help him or hurt him. Sophia has an influence on Rachel. Additionally, Days teasers for December 10th indicate that Sophia is influencing Rachel. To be honest, we all anticipated this. They both live in Bayview, and Sophia appears prepared to team up with Rachel now that they are communicating once more. Is this collaboration destined for trouble? Yes, is indicated by every indication. Sarah and Brady offer compassion. Additionally, Brady and Sarah express their sympathy for one another. Fortunately, Sarah is doing much better following that health crisis. And Brady is taking things day by day since he is overcome with heartache and sorrow over what his daughter has done. Do you think Stephanie and Alex make a good couple?